Imagine standing in your kitchen, a glass of cold milk in hand, twisting open an Oreo cookie the way millions of Americans have done for generations. That first bite is more than just a snack. It's a piece of childhood, a ritual of comfort, and a flavor so familiar it feels timeless. But have you ever stopped to think about how this tiny black and white cookie became the most popular sandwich cookie in the world? More than 450 billion Oreos have been sold since their creation in 1912, and today factories run day and night to produce over 40 billion every single year. What looks like a simple treat on the shelf is actually the result of a massive, high-tech, non-stop operation that transforms raw wheat and cocoa beans into a cookie that has become part of American identity. And it all happens behind the walls of giant facilities where science, engineering, and tradition meet. The Oreo story began in New York City over a century ago, when Nabisco launched a brand new cookie designed to compete with Hydrox, a rival sandwich cookie. While Hydrox had the head start, Oreos had something else, an unbeatable combination of taste, texture, and clever marketing. Over time, they didn't just win the cookie wars, they became woven into American culture. From TV commercials to lunchboxes, from birthday parties to after-school snacks, Oreos were everywhere. Even the ritual of twisting the cookie apart, licking the sweet cream, and dunking the biscuit in milk became a shared cultural habit passed down through generations. A quirky detail that few notice? The bottom cookie is slightly larger than the top, ensuring the filling doesn't ooze out when you press the two halves together. That subtle design choice is part of why Oreos always look picture-perfect. Step inside the factory, and the journey of every Oreo begins with truckloads of ingredients arriving at the loading docks. Wheat flour, harvested from farms across the U.S., is delivered in bulk. Granulated sugar comes from domestic suppliers, while cocoa powder often arrives from West Africa, countries like Ghana and Ivory Coast, or from Indonesia, each source lending a slightly different flavor profile. These raw materials are carefully inspected and then fed into massive sifting and blending machines. Flour is sifted to remove clumps, sugar is screened for consistency, and cocoa is blended to ensure that every batch has the same rich, dark chocolate taste. Once the dry ingredients are ready, they are mixed with vegetable oil, salt, and baking soda. This is where chemistry comes into play. The baking soda reacts under heat, creating tiny pockets of air that help give Oreos their signature crisp texture. Slowly, the mixture comes together into a smooth, chocolate-colored dough with a fragrance that fills the air. Factory workers often say this is their favorite part, the moment when the raw powders transform into something that already smells like an Oreo. The dough then travels through industrial machines that portion it into small, precise balls. Rollers flatten these balls into perfectly round discs that meet the Oreo's standard diameter. The precision here is incredible. Machines don't just guess at the size, they measure and shape every single piece so that every Oreo looks exactly the same. Rows of these discs line up on conveyor belts that stretch across the factory floor, marching toward ovens that are longer than a city bus. Inside the ovens, which stretch over 100 feet and burn at around 400 degrees Fahrenheit, the cookies bake for roughly 15 minutes. Hot air circulates evenly through multiple tiers, making sure that every cookie, whether in the first row or the last, comes out baked to perfection. Exhaust fans release steam while sensors constantly monitor the temperature, preventing even a hint of overbaking. By the time they exit, the cookies are crisp, dry, and nearly identical in color, shape, and size. But the journey doesn't stop there. Before any filling is added, the cookies must cool completely. If cream were added while they were still warm, it would melt and ruin the perfect sandwich. Cooling tunnels, some stretching the length of an entire basketball court, use powerful fans to gradually lower the cookies to room temperature. The air inside these tunnels hums with the sound of constant fans, and by the end, trays are filled with flawless patterned cookies waiting for their partner, the cream filling. That creamy center is arguably what makes an Oreo truly irresistible. Inside the plant, massive stainless steel vats are used to create the filling. Sugar and vegetable oil form the base, whipped at speeds of up to 2,000 revolutions per minute until the mixture becomes light, fluffy, and smooth. Then comes the secret flavoring, a formula Nabisco has guarded for over a century. Workers who prepare the filling rarely know the entire recipe themselves, it's that closely protected. From these vats, the cream flows through insulated tubes that snake across the factory toward specialized filling machines. This is where precision engineering meets mouth-watering indulgence. A mechanical pump deposits exactly 1.29 grams of cream onto every bottom cookie. If you've ever wondered why the cream layer always looks so uniform, it's because these machines apply the same amount with incredible accuracy. A second conveyor line drops the top cookie gently onto the cream, and a press applies even pressure, locking the two halves together. The result? A flawless Oreo sandwich. At peak production, these conveyor belts assemble more than 30,000 cookies every hour, each one indistinguishable from the last. From here, Oreos head straight into packaging. Rolls of plastic film unwind onto conveyor belts, wrapping the cookies into neat sleeves. Automated machines count and align every stack, sliding them into trays before sealing them tightly. Within minutes, thousands of packages are stacked onto pallets, shrink-wrapped, and loaded into trucks. From massive distribution centers, they fan out across the country, filling shelves in grocery stores from New York to Los Angeles. Beyond America, Oreos are shipped to over 100 countries, making them a truly global cookie. Have you ever taken a bite of chocolate so rich, so silky, that you stop and wonder how on earth something this perfect was made? Or maybe you've unwrapped a warm brownie, that fudgy square of nostalgia, and thought of childhood birthday parties, bake sales, or lunchbox surprises. What most people don't realize is that behind every bar of luxury chocolate and every neatly wrapped brownie on a store shelf lies a hidden world of machines, traditions, and craftsmanship working together with clock-like precision. Factories around the world are not just churning out snacks, they are creating edible works of art at massive scale, and the journey from raw ingredient to finished treat is a story worth telling. Today we're pulling back the curtain on two of the most beloved indulgences: pistachio-filled chocolate bars that sell for $40 a piece, and the humble American brownie, produced in the billions every year. Both carry stories of culture, innovation, and incredible food engineering, and by the end you may never look at a sweet the same way again. The story of this luxury pistachio chocolate bar begins in a surprisingly humble way, with cacao beans harvested under the sun in equatorial regions. Once fermented, dried, and roasted, they are ground relentlessly for 72 hours straight until the gritty mixture transforms into a flowing, glossy liquid that looks more like molten glass than food. This thick cacao mass is the foundation of all fine chocolate. At this stage, technicians carefully monitor every detail: the grinding temperature, the smoothness of the paste, and the balance of flavors developing inside the massive stone grinders. By the end, the base is smooth, rich, and ready to be transformed into something extraordinary. The liquid chocolate is piped into giant, temperature-controlled vats where artistry meets science. Here, the blend becomes more than just cocoa. It evolves into chocolate as we know it. Premium milk powder is poured in for creaminess, sugar is measured down to the gram to balance bitterness, and a precise mix of emulsifiers keeps everything stable and silky. The mixture moves seamlessly through insulated pipes, staying at just the right temperature so that no texture is lost. This is the heartbeat of chocolate making. A careful dance of heat, chemistry, and exact ratios that turn bitter cacao into something luxurious. But what makes this bar worth $40 is not just the chocolate base. The magic comes from the filling, and at the heart of that filling is the pistachio, one of the most expensive nuts on earth. Sourced from Iran, Turkey, and California, premium pistachios arrive at the factory under strict inspection. Each batch is tested for quality, freshness, and taste before it's allowed onto the production floor. Industrial grinders crush the nuts into a dense, emerald green paste that smells earthy and rich. At more than $10 per pound, pistachios drive up the cost of the bar, but they also set it apart as a truly indulgent product. Still, pistachio paste alone isn't enough to create the bar's signature taste and texture. To deepen the flavor, the factory blends in kadif, a traditional Middle Eastern pastry made of delicate, thread-like dough. Delivered from specialized suppliers, the kadif strands are soaked overnight in sugar syrup, then carefully separated by hand so they don't break. Workers toast the pastry in ovens at 350 degrees Fahrenheit until golden and crunchy, giving it the nutty snap that makes each bite unforgettable. Meanwhile, sesame seeds are roasted until fragrant and ground into tahini, a paste that brings creaminess and a subtle bitterness to balance the sweetness. These three key elements, pistachio cream, kadif, and tahini, come together in exact proportions: 62% pistachio paste, 28% kadif, and 10% tahini. This balance has been perfected through trial, error, and generations of culinary tradition. Mixed slowly over 36 hours, the filling becomes smooth, layered, and complex, with a texture that is both crunchy and creamy. It is piped into molds already lined with the liquid chocolate base, before more chocolate is poured on top to seal everything in. The molds are carried through long cooling tunnels, where controlled temperatures allow the bars to set into firm, glossy blocks. Once solidified, the bars are carefully wrapped in foil, tucked into elegant branded boxes, and scanned for any imperfections before leaving the factory. Demand is so high that every carton is tracked under tight control, destined for luxury shops and online orders. So the next time you see one of these $40 pistachio chocolate bars, you won't just think of indulgence. You'll remember the armies of machines and artisans who labored silently to make sure it was flawless. While luxury chocolate tells a story of global ingredients and craftsmanship, the brownie tells a different kind of tale, one rooted deeply in American culture. According to Statista, Americans eat an astonishing 2.15 billion brownies each year. They're more than just a dessert, they're a piece of Americana. In factories, one massive batch of batter can yield over 6,000 brownies, enough to fill hundreds of boxes in less than an hour. It's a staggering level of production for a treat that began, like many iconic foods, by accident. The true origin of the brownie is still a topic of debate. Some believe it began in Bangor, Maine, when a homemaker forgot to add baking powder to a chocolate cake recipe, leaving her with dense squares instead of a fluffy dessert. Others trace its roots to Chicago, where a hotel chef in the late 1800s supposedly created the treat for guests who wanted something portable yet indulgent. By the early 1900s, brownies had appeared in cookbooks and quickly spread across American kitchens. They were easy to bake, easy to pack, and versatile enough to suit everything from school lunches to wedding buffets. What started as a kitchen mistake has become one of the most beloved desserts in the United States, and factories have elevated that tradition into a high-speed production marvel. The modern brownie factory is a ballet of stainless steel and automation. It starts with enormous mixing vats where liquid ingredients are combined in exact order. Canola oil is pumped in first, ensuring moistness. Then xanthan gum is added, a modern ingredient that keeps brownies soft and chewy long after baking. Whole eggs are cracked and poured in, while corn syrup sweetens and stabilizes the batter. Finally, flour cascades from hoppers above, thickening the mixture into the glossy, rich batter we recognize from home kitchens. Except here, the scale is mind-bending. Instead of a bowl on a countertop, these vats can hold hundreds of gallons at once. Once the batter is ready, conveyor belts carry empty pans under a fine mist of oil spray to prevent sticking. A depositor machine releases perfectly measured amounts of batter into each cavity with robotic precision, ensuring every brownie is the exact same size. From there, the pans slide into an enormous oven, nearly 12 feet long with 13 rotating tiers. The brownies bake at controlled temperatures for about 20 minutes. By the time they emerge, the entire factory is filled with the rich, unmistakable aroma of chocolate, a smell that instantly triggers memories of home baking. After baking, the pans glide into cooling tunnels, where cold air is circulated to bring the brownies down to room temperature without drying them out. Workers inspect the moving line for any imperfections. Broken pieces are removed so only uniform, square brownies continue on. Sensors detect each brownie as it approaches the wrapping station. Rolls of clear film unwind at lightning speed, wrapping and sealing each brownie in one continuous motion. Heated wheels press the seams closed so that every package is airtight and ready for shipping. Within just a few hours of mixing the first batch, thousands of individually wrapped brownies are stacked into boxes, loaded onto trucks, and shipped to supermarkets across the nation. Think about that the next time you peel back the plastic on a brownie at school, at work, or during a road trip. That single bite represents a long chain of farmers, scientists, bakers, and machines working together. A mix of history and modern engineering that makes comfort food accessible on a massive scale. From the luxury of a pistachio-filled chocolate bar crafted with exotic ingredients to the everyday joy of an American brownie made by the millions, these foods may look simple, but they're backed by immense complexity. Chocolate carries centuries of global trade and culinary tradition, while the brownie embodies American invention and nostalgia. Yet both share one thing in common. They are made possible by factories where mixers, ovens, conveyors, and robotic arms work tirelessly day and night. So, the next time you savor a bite of chocolate or unwrap a chewy brownie, pause for a moment. Behind that small square or glossy bar is a fascinating story of history, culture, technology, and human creativity, all converging into the sweetness on your tongue. If you found this journey into the hidden world of food production as fascinating as we did, make sure to subscribe and join us again. There are countless more secrets to uncover inside the world's most familiar products, and trust us, the next story will be just as delicious.